Paul sent me the script. I read it. I loved it. I said, yes, I'll do it. And then 3 years later, we met. You mean we texted and we Zoomed or whatever, FaceTimed, whatever, and a few times. But it just took a while to get the film set up. And we met here in this very hotel one evening over a pint.
And we never didn't even chat about the movie. We just were just going off with books and politics. And it was wonderful that we got along so well, and I kind of suspected we would, and knowing his work and knowing his thing. But if we hadn't gotten along, that would have worked fine too, because the characters are trying to get along, or they do get along, and then they don't. And I thought, you know what? If it turns out that we don't mesh, that's going to be funny too. But luckily, we had a great time.
And sort of casting and developing that's something that you would work as producer in tandem with Chris and getting right? Is that like a co-decision? Was that like Chris's shout?
You're thinking about it and you go, somebody who could be my cousin, Ireland. Colm Meaney, done. You don't have to go, yeah. It's not Denzel, okay. Where can we go?
You'd probably do a good accent if you tried.
Oh, yeah, he could do anything. He could do anything.
I did Iceland Cometh and Broadway to Denzel, and man, what an actor. I think he's the greatest actor of our generation.
I think he is. I've seen recently young comics doing impressions of Denzel, which I never thought you could do. I go, there are little very Denzel-y things about him, that sort of pouty lips. And he's phenomenal. But it was.
How did we get talking about Denzel?
Because I made a stupid joke. But no, they thought of Colm, and I thought that's going to be really just felt right. And to his credit, our director, Chris Cottam, his sort of mission statement to himself for the production was, we've got to get this right for the Irish audience, and let's avoid every cliche and every misstep. And so yes, it's a small little village, but it's not the 1400s. It's not necessarily thatched roofs, and there are no leprechauns. Let's make it real. So that fact that Colm responded, I went, okay, we passed the first test.
There's some of those in-jokes that I was like, if the person, either like as executive producer, do you serve as a Irish consultant for some of those?
No, because when I read it, I just thought this is great. I mean, that was my big concern. When you read a script written by a non-Irish, we won't say American this time, but written by a non-Irish writer, you sometimes can get a bit Paddy Wackery, Darby O'Gillish, and all that. And when I read it, I realized this is brilliant. This is representing the real Ireland of today. So I didn't have any of those worries, or have to do any of that.
You wrote this for Ireland, so you decided you wanted to write a film set in Ireland, and I think that's like, what was it about? It was Section 481? Was it our fabulous crew?
No, yeah. It started. In the movie we referenced that my character loved the movie Local Hero, which is how this started. I saw Local Hero when it came out in 1983 in America.
That's Scotland.
Let me finish. And Scotland, apparently, did you know this? Totally separate country.
Yeah.
Not the same as Ireland.
Also a joke that's made.
Yes.
I'm not ruining it.
But so I just love that idea of an American going to a beautiful, picturesque little town. Somehow I said, Ireland. And then in the early 90s, I visited Ireland for the first time, and I just fell in love with it. And I said, okay, I got to make the movie in Ireland. I had no story. I just had, I go to Ireland. Why? And then figured it out.
So talk about that editing process then, in terms of, or the writing process, in terms of, you have an idea. Do you do a one-pager and kind of like send it around to people and see? Is it something that you're like, okay, I have my slate of projects, this goes here, and when I have time, I'm going to, like, how do you kind of do your drafts working up to this?
Wow. That's
a good question.
Bunch of good questions. No, first of all, no, I don't show it to anybody. Because I'm not a big fan of input. Like, let me write it, and then afterwards you'll tell me, and we'll do it. But I just had the idea, literally, that the idea was simply I wanted to go to Ireland, and I just played with it very casually for a couple of years, and then at one point I got serious about it. I thought I should probably write it with somebody to just bounce off ideas. So somebody recommended this writer, Wally, who co-wrote it with me, and it was a great collaboration. And I said, I'm going to Ireland. Why? Okay, well maybe it's a family. Okay, why? And maybe there's a long-standing feud between the two sides of the family, and they're trying to finally broker the peace. And then that really appealed to me. I thought, well, now you've got a movie about something, about human nature, conflict, how do people resolve. So it's about something big, but it's told in a very small-scale story. It's two knuckleheads who are good guys trying to do something, good intentions, and it goes badly because we're flawed people.
Would you consider yourself to be like a writer that acts or an actor that writes?
One of the toughest things for me is filling out a form when you go to the occupation. I don't know, a whole bunch of things. I never like to pinpoint it. I actually only became a writer because I didn't know how to describe things. You know, you have to pitch it. Well, go into the big suits and pitch it to the network. Let me just write it here. Then you tell me. So, and you know, I started as a stand-up, and I still do stand-up comedies where you're writing for yourself. So that's where it really started, and the acting sort of came in second. I don't know if that answers your question. But
Thank
if you
you
watch
so
the movie
much. Yeah.
and you see me next to him, you'll say, well, that Reiser, he's no actor. So, yeah.
And I saw another promotion that you've done for this that you had said Parked is one of the underrated films. I would argue that I think in Ireland that is I would be surprised that people haven't seen Parked.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
absolutely.
just one of the most
it was
beautiful.
a terrific film. Dara Byrne, it was a first-time director on that, and he's since been making a lot of documentaries. But he should be making features. Yeah, for sure.
So powerful. So everyone should watch this film and also watch Parked. That's what I.
Well, thank you very much.
And The Journey.
Thank you so much.
For those who
And
haven't watched The Journey.
Yes, of course.
This is the problem with people is the comedic version of The Journey.
I
Two
love this.
people trying to broker a peace.
Working those different acting muscles. That's
Exactly.
brilliant. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
You're very welcome.